Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, without another moment's ado, our dear friend Tara Devlin, co-host of the Tara Show, or as the Terrible Two, or TNT,
TNT.
um,
I like
could,
TNT. We should have
or
called it TNT, really. I
as
think.
me
I don't know.
and whoever my running best friend was at any given time, my parents would always refer to us as the as well, as effectively trouble squared. So
Mm-hmm.
a double dose of teas or the gruesome
Right.
twosome, that also works. Which made me feel good, as a teenager about my looks. So I
Oh.
was just I was just talking a little bit about like Trump's trip to England. The and we'll talk about the Charlie Kirk thing and the kind of fallout from
Uh-huh.
that a little bit, and we'll also talk about the fact that they are using it like everywhere to try and turn it into something it's not, and it just
Yep.
I think they think it's a lot more effective as a dividing tool than it is. And we'll talk
Yep.
about that as well. But just so you know, palace sources have revealed that Trump and Melania are sleeping in separate beds, and Trump had sheets flown in from America. I'm guessing for
Why?
their either water repellent qualities or their absorption. Also, as an excuse why he can take them with him when he
Yes. When he
leaves.
soils them,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, so they said that the pair have opted for some privacy and will enjoy their own rooms. That's a lovely way of saying it. As well as sheets shipped in from the U.S. during their UK visit.
Wow.
And
Weird.
yeah, and below stairs wags, noting that Melania has a separate suite. Joked that if she'd asked for a waterbed, she could effortlessly drift apart from Donald. Oh, that dry bit of
Drift
humor.
apart.
If she would like, perhaps she could provide her with a little rowing boat, to go with her waterbed. Yes. Also, Cankle's McBloat um, also had issues, I guess, dealing with jet lag last night. And that's why he was blathering on. Now, I would like to point out, this is my theory, and I would love to get your take on it, Tara Devlin of the Tara Show. That will be changed to TNT if it's the last
Yeah.
thing
I
I do.
mean, it's TNT is already taken in a way, but yes, it should
But
be.
your big
That's
T, lowercase t, big T will
right.
work fine.
It
Nobody
should
will
be
mind. Yeah,
TNT.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
The Terror Show,
Anyway.
TNT. Yeah, it's fine. You can use it as a logo. It'll look
Right.
like Stonehenge. So the um, two things about this. One, old man not sleeping, not good. Like bragging about the fact that
Yeah.
old fart not sleeping just proves that his brain is rotting and he can't get a good night's sleep. So it's not good, anyways. The other thing is that we both know that White House staff post in his stead, and basically have got this strategy to post effectively 24 hours a day based on
Mm.
stuff, so that there's a nighttime reaction group that if they want to show something, so it looks like he never sleeps, that to
Right.
give this illusion,
Definitely.
because they think it makes him look strong and not
Hmm.
deranged.
Right.
So yeah, he like slammed the FBI investigation into himself. This is all stuff that Dan Scavino and those guys could write up, um, and saying that the FBI was after Charlie Kirk and therefore aren't helping, even though at the same time Patel is saying that they figured it out in record time, even though the guy turned
Oh,
himself in.
please.
Then the other
Right.
part is, of course, is that Trump was standing next to someone who's actually 6'3", and um,
It's always
it,
inconvenient. Yes.
yes, it turned out. I'll see if I can find a picture of it. But it's yeah, there you go, there you go. That's
Oh, the Prince of Wales or whatever.
yeah, yeah, that's the son. Yeah, Prince William. Yeah, he's 6'3".
I suppose
So
he's, what is he, 200? What, Trump said he was
Trump,
200 and
he's I think he was like 185, 9 inches cut. Right, was the was the story.
right.
But yeah, there he is. Nope. Also, I would like to say that Trump may have been 6'2" at some point, which is how tall my dad is. But in this particular case, I think he's shrinking. I'm not kidding. I think he's got
No,
old
he
man.
has to.
He's
Well,
got old
that's what
man wilt.
happens,
He's doing this
right? When you
business.
get
Yeah.
older,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, my
Uh-huh.
my mother, my whole family is very tall. I'm 6 feet tall, but my mother, shrank when she was really super old,
Right.
and yeah, it was kind of weird, but it's what happens. Gravity.
Yeah,
Your
you're always
bones
fighting it.
compress.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And
So yeah,
lying, you're always fighting with your lie as well, right? If
right.
you
Oh,
craft a lie
what a
about this kind of
miserable.
stuff, yeah.
Right. He's so miserable. Just a miserable, ugh,
Well, I
cuss.
mean, thank you
What did?
for raising the mood, because I got to say, that's the one good thing you could kind of rely on in this circumstance is that no matter how Trump attempts to feel like he's on top of the world, display strength,
Right.
all this horseshit. The man is never not miserable. I
Yes,
cannot
that's
imagine. I
right.
can, it like, uh, he is always a victim, always under attack, never in control, always feeling like he has to overcompensate with braggadocious bullshit. And
Yep.
can you imagine living like that? Can you imagine having a dented
Yeah.
ego that is so weak that even
So
when you become
fragile.
president of the United States, um, yeah, it's stunning to me. Like it will never leave him. He will always be a victim, even though he won and re-won and became president twice, and he's
Mm-hmm.
got all these followers. All of them, it's all hollow because ultimately he just wants Vanity Fair, Time Magazine, and CNN and rich
Yes.
people to
Yeah,
like
he
him.
wants
So
that. He wants to be invited to all the A-list parties, but he will
right,
never be invited. And also, he knows, this is what I think, deep down inside, he knows what a fraud he is.
yes,
That's why he's so easily triggered and will, if you hit me, I hit back 10 times harder. If you
right,
have a secure sense of self, who cares if somebody calls you a name or
yeah.
says you're not successful? Well, if you, who cares? Just keep it moving. Like
Well,
why
yeah,
would you
and
even give
whoops, there we go.
attention? It's ridiculous.
I
So
agree.
yeah, but it's
I'm
because
trying
he
to
knows.
hold on.
Mhm.
I'm dealing with an audio issue, but I will work it out. Fear not, guys. Um, uh, yeah, if your
I
audio
get it.
is dropping, it might be a thing on. Just refresh your
My
page.
audio?
Should be no mine. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Fear not. So the okay. So there's obviously um, apparently, according to let's see, I don't know if this is from the Daily Beast or whatever. Apparently, the reason he brings his own sheets is to not stain the sheets with quote tanning chemicals.
What?
I think they mean
Tanning.
orange paint, or as I think famously Patton Oswald referred to it, butt soup.
You using the whole piss doc?
You know what I mean? That he is clearly, you know,
Oh my
not.
God, that's
Yeah,
disgusting.
he's in he's internationally incontinent. Is the I no doubt like, and maybe he doesn't want to sleep in a diaper, so they basically bring a giant one for him to lay on. Ooh,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure.
Hey,
Yeah.
he's 79 years old, going on 93. His brain is obviously tapioca, and his body was never that great to start with in its function and form, and it's just dissolving right before
Right.
us.
I'm surprised he's made it to this age. To tell you the truth, given his shitty diet, just how. But we were talking about this last time.
Mm-hmm.
His mother was passed away. She was 99, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So yeah, I
Right.
think he's
Well,
got
the moms always
that
last longer. The
longevity.
dad didn't. Right. The moms
How old was
always.
Dad? Was
Yeah,
he?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up because I
Um,
previously don't care.
let's see.
But
Right.
there, yeah,
Exactly.
right. Like it, and it's and I have to say, I'm enjoying like some of the pictures of him because again, this is like proof that he's just never not miserable.
Uh
He's in
huh.
like he's sitting there and goes, these things are smaller than I thought they should be, and I don't feel like a king. This thing's rickety, and
Oh.
my God, he's like the princess and the fucking pea about all this stuff. And then
And
he
he's
also
surrounded by all his favorite things. Yeah, the hierarchy,
gold
intergenerational
laminated bullshit,
aristocracy,
right? Yeah, yeah, gold
gilded,
leafing. There,
right?
yeah,
All this
his
gilded
his
shit. So,
yep, his hand, you
oh
know, which he was
boy, yeah,
hiding. Like
that's.
lately,
Whew.
he's been pathologically hiding. They showed this is I think the other hand that he's got a little bit
Wow,
of makeup on, but the this one's gacked up with the goo again.
that's pretty
Like
bad.
just
It's
he's
looking
yeah.
bad.
I mean, you can see it with the naked eye from this far away.
Wow,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's bad.
And that's the
So
picture. There was a picture of Queen Elizabeth,
yes,
who
with a
had
bruise on
that
her hand.
bruise the day before she died. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a
So
good sign.
yeah. So that again, he is not going to improve, and he is going to keep calling people scum and all that kind of stuff. Not because he's being
I
tough,
know.
but because his brain is failing, and that's what old people who are set in their ways with very little like emotional breadth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have a lot of emotions left in their head. It's almost like your body, as it's failing, goes into fight or flight, and
Yeah.
his is all fight because he feels like he's got backup. Otherwise, it would be flight.
Right.
So since he thinks everybody will basically, cancel, fire, or nuke anybody that goes against him, he'll be in fight calling people scum and villains, and
Ugh.
he'll yell at reporters and all that shit. But
All
ultimately,
right.
right, none of it's
Embarrassing.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll see if I can find the video of him too, walking down the steps. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit
Someone
about.
on the. Are you talking to me? Someone in the chat said, "Does she talk?" Yeah, I talk.
Yes, I'm
I
getting there. I'm
talk.
trying.
I talk real good. You
Yeah,
know.
she speaks a
So.
lots. So they're used to Tara Devlin bulldozing, so we don't get to talk as much.
I get
But
it.
I
Yeah.
wanted to get your take on sort of like the Charlie Kirk shooting, and then the MAGA response afterwards, in what you're
Yeah.
seeing, and in and obviously Trump trying to weaponize it.
Well, what they're doing is right out of the fascist playbook, Hearst vesseling his memory, and it just goes to show you. I mean, they have no interest in Charlie Kirk. They couldn't give a shit about him, his family, how he
Hmm.
died. They immediately use it as a political weapon to divide, which is
Hmm.
kind of a fitting end to that man's life because that's all
Hmm.
he did when he was alive was divide and pour poison into the discourse, and that's what's so concerning. Everything is concerning about the way they're responding. But I was talking to my aunt yesterday, and she doesn't, she never heard of Charlie Kirk. She's an older woman, and
Right.
she was believing everything that they were saying about him. He's just some, young debater who went into hostile places and had open and honest debates with people. Prove
Hmm.
me wrong. He wasn't debating. He was simply bullying, and there was no debate going on. There was no moderator. There was no
Well,
somebody
yeah, one of the
doing
things,
the.
you're right. There was no moderator, and he would never cede a point when he lost. They would just move
Yeah,
on, and it would be agree to disagree, which is exactly the opposite of a debate, an actual debate.
exactly.
I would
It was
agree. I
just
would
the technique.
Right.
Hmm.
And on the one hand, like there's been a lot of like videos circulating of him being, because the right is freaking out and thinking that Israel planned this, of course, because they're falling into that. He was, he thought October 7th might have been either known about or planned, kind of the theory about Pearl Harbor, or if not a false flag, a Reichstag fire type thing.
Mm-hmm.
They allowed it to happen so they could do this stuff, and so therefore Netanyahu had him dusted off and stuff. That's where they are. A big
Right.
chunk of them, led largely by Candace Owens and others. And so there's videos of him circulating because they're trying to defend the free speech point, of him talking to a gay conservative going, I don't agree with you being gay, I'm a Christian and I can't, but welcome to the conservative movement. There's this part with him disagreeing with Netanyahu that's floating around. And again, the reality is it seemed to be more opportunistic, so you won't find consistency in any of these things, but you will find almost you'll find him on almost every side of an issue except the most liberal or the most accepting. Like it'll always
Mm.
be weighted in this faux Christian conservatism. But lately he had been falling back into really being a Christian proselytizer because that's where the money is. It's the same thing Glenn Beck
Right.
does. Glenn Beck is planning a church. I've always joked that I'm going to, when I'm done with this and Trump is gone, I'm just going to become the next Reverend Gene Scott, sitting
Why not?
with a horse farm, sitting in front of two chalkboards with a bunch of like, oh yes, I hire old playmates that like need a place to stay, and they run my horse farm for me while I sit around reading from the Bible in an easy chair. Right? That I joked about that as being my like retirement plan, but that's what Glenn Beck is actually building right now in Texas.
He's he's got like some kind of retreat. Is that
Yes.
it?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's all like Mormon adjacent Christianity, by the way, of which he knows fucking nothing about. But
Oh, they
that's
know
that
nothing about anything, really. They know how to.
to
I mean,
they
they're
know enough
really
to
good
sell
at
it.
lying.
Yes,
What's that?
they know
Yeah.
enough to sell it. Right.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And they have no interest. And this is what's so scary about what's going on now. That talk about liberal scum coming from the
Hmm.
left, the loony left. And there's no. It's this ubiquitous left. Who is the left? What is the
Right.
left? They're fighting. Their ideology is evil. What ideology? The ideology of everyone should have health care,
Right.
everyone should have a living wage. No, they're
Yes.
talking. Well, it's trans people. That's what they're talking about.
Right. Right.
That's
Well, they're
evil.
talking they're talking communists slash what they mean is
Mm-hmm.
cultural Marxists, which they blame for BLM and they blame for trans, or identity politics, and that sort of fringe, while totally ignoring the Ashley Babbitt QAnon side of their fringe.
Right.
Again, lately I've taken to because there's so much overlap with these groups. That
Mm-hmm.
they're no longer like the lunatic left or the radical right. They're the fucking pizza crust, and the crust is now convinced it's the pizza. It thinks it's the
Right.
pizza when
Yep.
really it's just the delivery system. Let's be honest. And
Mm.
in
Mm.
the and I always end up making people want pizza out of this, but the problem that they have is that they have to do what they said Biden was doing when he was doing just the opposite. Or the
Yep.
basket full of deplorables analogy that Hillary was making, which is the vast majority of Republicans you actually can have a conversation with. We disagree about the how, not the why or the what. Whereas
Yes.
MAGA and what Trump is building is it's a metastasizing cancer inside the Republican Party, and you can put those basically in a basket of deplorables. She was kind of talking about the Groypers at the time.
Right.
She
And
was
she was
sort of
right, though.
yes, she
She
was
wasn't saying they
absolutely
were
right.
all bad. That's the
Nope.
thing. And that's why she should never have apologized for it.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
she was correct. And
Yeah.
that's
She was
what's
go.
annoying about Democrats. Like, what are you apologizing for? You didn't call them all deplorable. You said the homophobes, the Islamophobes,
Yeah.
the transphobes, these hateful groups.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
the
deplorable.
hate, and you can even there's a smart way of doing it, I think, of going. I'm not talking about the Republican Party. I'm talking about the hate groups that have set up shop
Yes.
around the fringes of the Republican Party that are trying
There
to
you
take it
go.
over, and then you leave it on
He's
them to
100%.
defend their own
Mm-hmm.
flank, which is what they're doing
Yep.
with the left part. Okay, so my theory is much about the word liberal, left, or progressive, is that they make you defend the word while attaching it to the worst possible, bad
Yes.
faith version of it. So liberal meant, fucking break down the family and everybody's gay and nothing matters anymore. And
Yes.
apparently women working or something. I don't know. It's hard to keep
Uh-huh.
up. It's crazy talk.
Yeah.
And then it became an okay word again because they went after progressive, and now it's radical left, and then it's just left. And so anybody left of them, which includes the rhinos and the Republicans that
Yeah.
might sign on to an infrastructure act, that's all they have to say. If you're to the left of them, you're the left. And yet, what they want to do is take everybody that's in that group, which is enormous, and squeeze them down to these are anarcho, Marxists who want to burn down everything and cut off everybody's genitals and make us all Ken dolls, right? That's honestly, they want to do the opposite of what Hillary and Biden were doing. they want to put everybody into the basket of deplorables, instead of her going, no, there's a limited number of these folks, ignore them and focus on the people you can build a bridge with, which is how democracy has to work, right?
Well, I mean, you would hope that we live in a multiracial liberal democracy, so that's what we're supposed to be.
Right.
And this is something that the Republicans fundamentally, I mean, the ones in power now, that they fundamentally reject. And that's why, we have to, there has to be a leader to emerge here. This is how I feel. The one thing you could say about the right wing now with this assassination or the killing of Charlie Kirk is that they're all on message, and they have such great message discipline that doesn't ever exist on the left, that's for sure. And I think that right now we just need people to unify and come back at these charges without apology.
Right.
There they go again, trying to divide us. There they go again. I mean, it's really scary that this isn't coming from the fringe, that it's coming from Trump, and it's coming from Vance and the people in power. It's right out of the Nazi playbook. They
Well,
Hearst
his
Vessel
whole
this
okay,
guy.
so there was a great article years ago in the Atlantic, and I was on a show recently with Brian Karam, and one of the guys brought it up was that there was a German sociologist who brought up who created a political term that kind of describes what Trump is doing, which is patrimonialism. And the idea is that the presiding officer, the prime minister or the president, uses the office as a giant cookie jar, and then uses the mechanics of every other form of government, whatever it is, parliamentary system, fascist, monarchical systems, whether God has tapped him on the head with a scepter and made him the ruler, or whether, he murdered his way to the top. It doesn't quite matter. It's usually the second tier person. It's usually patrimonialism usually comes from like the son of the king that cut the head off of the other king. It's never the guy who did it himself. It's always the 19-year-old inbred psychopath. That runs things this way. But the idea is that they don't run as a fascist. They don't run as a socialist or as a democrat. A democracy. That what they do is they take any element of their country that's a democracy, the separation of powers, and they use people in that to attack everybody else as a distraction. Like fill the court with your people. Have your people in the parliament fight against everything else, or act as just a stop against anybody putting a check on you. And then you basically just enrich yourself and seed yourself into everything. And buy Intel at the same time you're forcing the government to buy Intel. Therefore, you have a stock that is guaranteed by a government loan, just like you were buying a bunch of tracts of Fannie Mae housing under the radar, because it's insider trading. It's just straight up insider trading.
Right. Yeah.
So while we get focused on and why they push back, like they called him a fascist and that's why he was killed and that's your fault.
Yeah.
Right. That was the thing. The reality is that they call everybody Marxists. When they do that, they don't just mean communists that want everything to be free. What they mean is Stalin and Mao killed tens of millions of people. To them, that is the same word as calling someone a Nazi. Again, Nazis were National Socialists, and people can argue about how honest a broker of National Socialism that Hitler was, but you can absolutely believe that the way they were going to establish a base camp for the German people was at the expense of everyone around them, that other people would work. Jews, Czechs, Polish people would be forced into slave labor so that the German people could live high on the hog and have a socialist structure, which is how Mao wanted it for the Han people. It's how the czars ultimately were deposed by people who basically did the same thing they were doing under the name of communism. So it's not really that different. But when they call people Marxists, they mean it like we mean fascist or Nazi sometimes. And I think a lot of it, like when you and I say it, we mean it as I don't want to speak for you. When you call somebody, talk about fascism or Nazism about somebody, I'm not talking about like they're in a uniform, therefore we're at war, therefore physically attack them. I'm talking about the structure of their government and how they want to run things.
Yes. Absolutely. The merger of corporate and state with the strong man, with the nationalism, the strict hierarchies, and the scapegoating of intellectuals, of
Hmm.
minority groups, of your enemies. This is exactly everything that they're doing is pretty chilling to me because it does have these
Well,
historical parallels.
agreed. But I think we could both agree that Mao was a true believer in whatever he was doing, like the Ayatollahs are true believers in what they're
Hmm.
doing, like Hitler was
Oh
a
yeah.
true believer in what he's doing. Whereas I don't think Trump is.
No,
And I
you're
think that's
right.
why
No, he's
Pat
just an
Tramoli,
yeah.
he's an
Oh yeah.
opportunistic
Right.
infection.
That's it. He's got no ideology. His
Right.
ideology is him, his gaping black hole of greed and need that substitutes for a personality.
Right.
That's his ideology. That's why it always drives me mad when they're like, "Oh, he used to be a New York Democrat." He wasn't a New York Democrat. He lived in New York and he gave
Right.
money to Democrats because Democrats are
That's
in
who ran
power
shit.
here.
Right.
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with him giving a shit about what Democratic policies were. He's a grifter.
Right.
That's it. He
Well, and
knows
that
how to
goes
play
to
the game.
the
Hmm.
sort of the immovable movable and semi excusable Charlie Kirk system of just allow there to be a video where you almost contradict yourself but not quite all the time, so that if you
Right.
ever get trapped in something you don't have to be backed into a corner like Nick Fuentes and go down fighting. You can always go, yeah, but I've always moderated, and we can have a conversation about that. But what I'm really here to talk about is, and that's how
Yeah,
he would
and that's what
always
Trump
move.
does
Yes.
too. Even with January 6th, they always go, well, he said peacefully. He said go there peacefully. He said that once peacefully.
Hmm.
One time for plausible deniability. He's like, yeah, yeah, whatever, peacefully.
I'll walk down
Go
there with
free.
you. He also didn't walk down there with him. Also,
No.
he said you're going to have to fight or you're not going to have a country, and all
Mm-hmm.
that shit.
Fight like
So
hell.
you're going to have to
Yep.
fight like hell.
Yep.
That would be, you can walk down there peacefully and patriotically. And I've said for a long time
Yeah.
that was the equivalent of don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. Don't make a
Mm-hmm.
noise or they'll know you're coming. And this is also why Pelosi and them are excused for not having. They shouldn't have to think they'll need 10,000 guards for a political
Yeah.
rally about a bunch of people bitching that they lost the election. The idea that they didn't know it was coming or something like that's why they have to build up this whole "there were feds that caused it" idea, because
Yep.
that's the logical fallacy they deal with. Is like, why would anybody? Why should, if you guys love America, why the fuck would anybody need guards for the counting of the vote all of a sudden
Right.
because a
They
bunch of you
don't love
dickheads showed up?
America. No,
Right.
you're
No.
right. But they don't love America. And I'm not just saying that to be inflammatory. They don't like the country born in the liberal age of enlightenment that was supposed to be the antidote to intergenerational aristocracy. And not that the founders, of course, they weren't, you know, they were hypocrites, and
Mm-hmm.
they owned that when they said all men are created equal, they meant all white men, property owning white men. But they certainly wrote a very progressive blueprint from which to build upon. And every time we get closer to expanding the franchise, to making a more
Right.
perfect union, that's when the Republicans, they don't even want to, they will throw the whole damn thing out the window, as we saw on January 6th. They
Right.
don't care. It's about power. It's
Mm-hmm.
about, ultimately, the power to destroy the system that the founders entrusted to us. Really, that's my opinion. I mean, even look at JD Vance. He said that one of the, I don't know if it was the most, but impactful moment of his life was when he met Peter Thiel when he was at Yale.
Oh yeah.
Peter Thiel came to speak at Yale when he was a student, and that's how he met him. And Peter Thiel not only funds J.D. Vance's entire pre-political career and post-political
Mm-hmm.
career, and he's a relative newbie in politics, but he funded the Curtis Yarvin guy, who is
Mm-hmm.
an avowed fascist, a
Yeah.
Nazi who says that we shouldn't have, and this is what they're going for.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have democracies when the worst thing that ever happened to humanity, and that we need some kind of tech bro oligarchy that that seems to be what they're setting up, and that's Elon Musk is an acolyte of this philosophy, and so is Peter Thiel. That also funds JD Vance's life, and the corporate media never puts this together. But they, like, for example, when Barack Obama was running, they were going on about how he was palling around with terrorists
Right.
because Bill Ayers held a fundraiser for him one
Mm-hmm.
time, and they sat on a board of some some
Right.
nonprofit together, and so we never heard the end of he's palling around with terrorists, but we don't hear anything about him, Peter Thiel, this Machiavellian who was raised by Nazis for real, not
Yeah.
kidding. I mean, in a school where they gave the Heil Hitler salute into the 80s as a greeting. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they only just stopped doing it recently in our lifetime. So it's like, why don't you put that together? I mean, don't you? Isn't that a little concerning that JD Vance's entire life is funded by this guy that says democracy is a big mistake?
Yeah, this
Like,
is
don't
for
you?
those of you that don't know. This is Curtis Yarvin. This is the guy who I think he's. I'm waiting for Fred Armiston to do what's the show that they have?
I
It's
know.
documentaries now or whatever. Like do a
Yeah.
behind the scenes of character of him. But this is a profile in New York Times where he's talking about how democracy is done, and then he calls for a
Yep.
monarch to like run the United States. Like Peter Thiel. They met when Peter Thiel said that freedom and democracy. Thiel wrote a paper, I think, or an essay that saying that freedom and democracy were um, uh, incompatible,
Yes, that's right.
which
Yep.
which is
Yep.
just because of the if you have to succumb to the will of anybody else, you're not truly free. And like to the extent, and this is where these navel gazing dickheads, I I experienced such fucking brain rot yesterday diving into the rationalism crowd that maybe are the people behind what Tyler Robinson believed in his circle, that
Mm.
are that
Yeah.
they're the people who are sort of tangentially attached to the Zizians, which is this trans identifying cult. And again, because of people on our side respecting people's trans identity, there's a tendency where people can pretend to be trans or take advantage of the labeling just to get ahead.
Yes.
And people like us will, out of a matter of principle, block off them from criticism when in reality they are identifying as trans people just so they can skip across the country murdering people and hide
Uh
in
huh.
women's shelters. Like it's fucked up. Or
Right.
sexually assault women, and then once they get tried, declare themselves women and get sent to a women's prison because the
Mm.
laws are loose. That's what's happened in England a couple of times, and it's
Oh
not
wow.
trans people's fault. It has nothing to do with trans people. It is heterosexual men, and in some cases heterosexual women, using the amorphous gray area of the law and our fear of discussing the murkier parts of it to get away with a ton of awful. And they know it. They just
Yep.
saw it an opportunity. It's like looking at mortgage documents and figuring out how to steal people's houses by
Right.
signing the right piece of paper. It doesn't mean mortgages are bad or people shouldn't be allowed to own homes, right? It's not an attack on homesteading. It's an attack on the windows that people can sneak in. Okay, so in this
Mm-hmm.
particular case, diving into this, there's this guy who wrote a book called "If Anyone Builds It, We All Die." It's a book that came out last week, and that will definitely be on Tyler Robinson's bookshelf or somebody around,
Oh wow.
guaranteed. And it's about AI. It's about how if anybody builds super intelligence, we're all dead. And they don't mean like eventually, they mean all at once. That at some point,
Mm-hmm.
this will lead to this, will lead to this, and then boom, it's gonna Skynet slash whatever matrix us, whatever. And it's all like I was like, okay, what's the argument? So I watched an entire like two
Oh
hour
God.
debate on the topic and a
Wow.
conversation by people who absolutely believe it. And I got to tell you, it's like it's Peter Thiel's shit is like locked in with the shit. There is very little difference between the Zizian the AI doomer crowd and Peter Thiel, except that he believes he'll be able to ride this dragon and they think they're going to be eaten by it, but both of them believe it's a dragon that's basically out of control. And he thinks we just got to get to the front of the line, turn ourselves into half robots and survive. It'll let us live and kill everybody else. Like that's where he is. That's why he jokes about the Antichrist.
Wow.
That's why, and this is fucking JD Vance's mentor.
Yeah. That's what I was. It's just sick, and that don't you think? I mean, you think about you give money to politicians who agree with your ideology. At least you hope so. So that connection should be explored,
Right.
but it never is.
Well, it is on the right. I got to tell you, there's
they do it.
Oh, because of the gay. Because Peter Thiel is gay,
I
in the same
see.
way that they
Yes.
don't trust Besant, but Nutlick is fucking dumb, so they're totally torn, right? They literally, there's this big tear between, like, they want to, like, they know Besant, as even though he's following Trump's stupid shit, behind the scenes is trying to even stuff out and not let the plane crash. Like he's like, you got it, boss, I'll land it, don't worry. And he's just holding on to every fucking control and everybody knows it. But he's gay and he's married and he used to work for Soros and he's got kids and everything they fucking hate. But they know he's the only one who's got any goddamn sense of the people who have no sense. Again, world's tallest midget, world's shortest giant, whatever the whole, whatever your definition is. But they know Nutlick and especially Navarro are fucking morons, so they're torn. Same thing with Thiel. They're like, they want JD Vance to be the like, you know, hillbilly elegy guy, but they all know he's gay, and they all know his wife's a beard, and they all know he's you know, he and Peter Thiel were fucking at one point, and that Thiel decided that he would, you know, deliver him to the Trump team and gain the control over it, you know, with their the former PayPal mafia guys would bury the hatchet, Elon Musk mainly, and they would get guaranteed $1 trillion contracts that would set them ahead of everyone else. The automatic cars, the military contracts, fucking robots, all that shit. They were going to guarantee themselves that way in, and that was by funding Trump's entire campaign if he takes Peter Thiel's sock puppet. That's I mean, and all the maggots know it. They all know it. They all look at him with his eyeliner, and their homophobic radar, just like, well, their anti-gay radar. I'm not a big fan of the phobias. Just pegs, and they're like, dude's gay, he's gay. Like, that's where their brain is.
Didn't he write in his book that he didn't think that he fit into any gender norm?
Right.
He thought he was gay, or he might be trans, and he went to his aunt, and they had a nice discussion about it, and blah blah blah. But you know, I mean, and that's why it makes so much sense when you hear him constantly scold everyone about where you should be, what men should do, and what women should do, and where, you know, that's right out of like Freud. You know, stop projecting your shit on us. You know, your self-loathing, and just get the help you need. And that's why he. I mean, it's so textbook about how, you know, how they project outwards. And I always say, if only the Republicans would just get help, you know, but they won't, and stop inflicting their manias on the world. The world would be a better place. Well, it does.
It definitely does explain why they have such a reaction to it, right?
Yes. Like, who cares otherwise? Who really cares? Like, leave people alone. Keep it moving. Live and let live. Isn't that what your Bible says?
Yes.
So,
and by the way,
but they can't do it.
I gotta say, there's a difference between exploratory behavior where you're like, I wonder what it would be like to be with another guy or something like that. Not like, I wish I could, I wish I really want to, but I can't. That's being gay. That's when somebody is fighting the fact that they're gay. Is the difference between like experimentation in college because you're drunk and you're like, I don't know, what's the big deal? Like, I had a buddy in high school who was like, he looked like a fucking Viking, like blonde hair, receding hairline that made him like look like who's built to wear a crown, just fucking a beast, like this dude. And I, you know, I'm 5'9", $165, fully clothed, soaking wet. So The like he was just towering over me. And one point at a party, I don't drink. I've never drank. So I used to walk around with the LaCroix mineral water, LaCroix sweet tea. And the reason I did this is because it had no flavor and it was brutal. And anybody in high school who was like, "What are you drinking? Why don't you have a beer?" I'm like, "Here, take a sip of what I'm drinking." They go like, "Jesus Christ!" I'm like, "Okay, then fine. You can't take what I'm drinking. I'm not interested in what you're drinking.
Right.
Leave me alone." It worked like a charm. That and
That's good.
IBC root beer, right? That was the other thing. IBC root beer could buy you a lot of time because it looks like a dark beer with the label taken off of it, so you could just walk around. Nobody asked if they like, "Is that root beer?" It didn't matter. So anyway, so I'm talking to this guy. He's fucking hammered, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Hal, I gotta say, man, I know you're a good dude. Like we weren't really close friends." And he goes, "But everybody says you're a good dude. You're a good dude. I'm gonna tell you something. You know, a lot of these dudes, they're all like fucked up because they're like worried they might be gay. You know, that's their problem."
Worried.
Yeah, like they think about it all the time. Like, what if I'm gay? What if I turn gay? All this kind of stuff. And he goes, "I don't have that problem. You know why? Because I fucking sat down and asked myself. I sat down there. I was like sitting there. I was at practice, and I'm looking at these other dudes, and I'm like, could I be gay? And I was like, no, no, I'm just not interested. Okay, cool. Not gay then." And he's like, "And I can fucking relax. I can hug my friends. I can do all this, but these motherfuckers, like, you can't put your arm around them. They get all freaked out because they won't ask
Right.
themselves the fucking question." And it was the wisest moment I have ever seen from someone who looked like they could play Thor in a movie. And I was like, I was so happy to have that conversation with this dude, and that he felt like he could have it with me because he knew I wasn't gay. That was the other thing too. It was like he was
Right.
like confiding in somebody who was like, "You're the size of somebody people think would be gay." It was like you could tell that's where his brain went, right? And I was like, I was like, "I commend you. Good for you for not being afraid to just look at yourself and go, who am I?
Yeah.
Not who should I be or who should I want to be." Okay. So the thing with Vance was Vance experienced something at one point, according to his book, where he was attracted sexually to another man and started going, oh, I'm gay, uh-oh.
Mm, mm. Yeah, but I
And
mean, like, it's not really that much. Don't you just know I'm gay? So you just know. You either, I don't know. I
well,
haven't, there's no,
where'd you grow up?
well, I grew up in Staten Island, on Staten Island, wherever,
Hmm.
in New York, but I
Right.
wasn't, I didn't, it wasn't like, I grew up at a time when there wasn't the gay straight alliances and things like that. So it
Sure.
was, for me, I didn't want to be gay. I actually tried to be bisexual, of course, because that was, I thought, better than being a full blown gay. So, half a gay could be
Eh,
palatable.
what are you,
But
half a queer?
even,
That's
you
literally a
know,
Long Island thing. What are you, half
you're
a
right.
queer? Right. And I was like,
So, you
yeah.
know, but my
Thi-
family, and when I came out to my family, like, and I have to say I'm proud of my family because really nobody cares. So,
right.
whatever, that's good, even though they're all, Christians and all that. And but of course, you struggle with it and you always have that internalized homophobia, but because of the society that you live in and grow up in.
Right.
So yeah, you're always in a process of coming out, meeting new people, and you have to come out, or you have to, like why you live with four cats, Oh, well, it's kind of, and a guinea pig, and a guinea
Aha.
pig.
I
Right,
we
that's
have
a
we have
clue.
right. We have five, and I have long hair, so I don't know what the hell. Like, people are so goddamn confused.
Right.
Because I'm one of those people who didn't react negatively to a straight pride flag because I've been waving it my whole goddamn life.
Oh, that's
And,
funny. Right.
I was like, I'm having a great time being straight. Like, let's do
Yeah.
this, right?
I
Whereas
mean,
the
what
other
does it
people are like,
matter?
it's only good I'm straight because it means I'm not gay. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I
That's
mean, who wants to be gay? I
right.
didn't want to be gay when I realized I was gay. And that was actually because I was raised Catholic. And I remember being in church as a little kid and the priest doing a sermon on gays. And I was like, who are these gay people? I was like, wow,
Uh,
they're horrible. I had no idea it was me. And
right.
then they they put out a pamphlet. Don't watch the show Soap with Billy Crystal.
Oh
That
yeah,
was
sure.
they,
Because he
and
plays a
I
gay
had a little
character on it.
black. Yes, there was a gay character, and and all my friends were watching Soap, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't watch it. I wasn't allowed, and I had a little black and white television in my room, and I
Right.
remember going, "Okay, I'm going to bed now," and I went upstairs, and I clicked on the TV. I put a blanket over it so there's no glow. Clicked on it. It was like, and my father was like, "What are you doing?" He opened the door. Turn off that TV. You're not gonna watch
Yeah.
that show. And I never got to watch Soap. Really, when I was growing up, I just would hear my friends
Right.
talking about it. They loved it, but it didn't. Not. I mean, being banned from watching Soap didn't make me not gay. It just made
Right.
me like hate myself,
Yeah.
and think I was in a hostile world that where I was not, I didn't have a home or didn't fit in, and
Sure.
just like self-loathing. And then I mean, I'm in recovery now, but so I did a lot of drugs and drinking, and I mean, I've been to a lot of therapy,
Well,
thank God, but yeah.
well, like, and by the way, straight people don't dodge that. They just get it for different reasons because they think the world hates
Right.
them for another trait. There's a lot more in common in that. I think one of the things that, when you talk about lived experience, one of the things that people share, quite frankly, no matter what your orientation is, what your what your gender is or whatever, is that a large portion of society has been taught by somebody along the way that the world hates them for something that they
Yeah,
can't change about themselves,
it's
or
sad.
that they think they can't change about themselves, and they're stuck. And that's the one thing I think, the bridge that can be built across all kinds of peoples, is that I want you to know, and I want everybody to know, that I'm not that person. That I'm not the person that hates you for anything that you can't change about yourself. And
Hmm.
you might go, the whole world is full of people who hates me because I'm this way. Well, you got one. All right. I'm like
Hmm.
when everybody said nobody's read the Affordable Care Act, I did. So one person read it, so nobody can say nobody ever read
Right.
that.
Nobody's
Right.
done it.
Same thing
Right.
here. Like, and I think it's super crucial. And I think that what when we're talking about the kind of the moralizing around this kind of stuff, there's tribal reasons immemorial as to why gay was was a negative trait, that has a lot to do with, like, we got to breed more people, and if we stop breeding
Hmm.
more people, and if anybody lures my breedable kid away from breeding, we're fucked. The tribe over the hill is breeding like rabbits, they're going to kill us. And there's a lot of, by the
Yeah.
way, overlap in that today. Look at Elon Musk's whole, like, we're not
Oh
having enough
yeah.
kids thing. They're the heart of a big portion of this is, and look at how they're talking about Tyler Robinson, like he was turned gay by
Yep.
the people
Yep.
around him. Like when they first thought he was the trans one, and they could go, oh, another trans shooter. They were very happy to do that. Then Laura Loomer, it wasn't Laura Loomer, it was and Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace coming out. All of a sudden, she went from,
Oh,
like,
I
we
know.
need to give this person the chair, to who could have led this boy astray,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
He was obviously with a
Needs our
trans,
prayers.
somebody was
Right.
transitioning to trans, so he's obviously straight. He's just been led into this with promises of some, Marxism, blah blah blah, whatever her bullshit was. But that it has a lot to do with this, and it always has, with demographics and child safety. So there's these two groups
Mm.
that they fear the most. You will lure my perfect breeding child away from the world of breeding, so I won't have any kids, and so my tribe will die. And that was a big part of it. It's also why
Right.
women,
Right.
it's why marriage laws were enforced, because
Yeah.
cousin fucking gives you weird goddamn kids, and so we have to keep a registry of who's having kids. I mean, it's so fucking simple, and yet
And that's what
we're,
it was in the
yeah,
Bible about,
right,
men should not spill their seed or whatever with another
yeah,
man. It was
it's equal
about, like
to,
you're
yeah,
saying,
right.
population and them dying out, not
Right.
having,
Well, it's why you don't eat pigs and you don't eat shrimp. Well, because spoiled seafood will kill you faster than almost anything else.
that's right.
And
Yep.
they didn't. There was no refrigeration. Same thing with pork, trichinosis. So all of Leviticus can be seen as a blunting attack on early death that a tribe was trying to
Hmm.
do. And I think one of the most brilliant things that the Jewish people ever came up with was you're Jewish because of your mom. And Philip Hittner's waiting in the
Right.
wings. We'll bring him on in just a minute. I want to remind
Okay.
everybody that Tara's got her own show called Tara Busters on Fridays, and then
Yes.
Tuesdays and Thursdays she does a show with our dear friend Tara Devlin, who does indeed rock and has a book. I don't know if you know this, but she has a book she's selling.
I
And
do. I
yeah,
heard
that's true.
something about it
Yeah, something about
once,
that.
twice.
But that all this stuff is based on if you're Jewish because your mom was a Jew, and the reason they came up with that is because in the Muslim expansion they raped people out of existence. The way that they created more people was that they would move through areas and rape everyone, and that child is now one of us. Because the man was the person, it was all patrimonial lineage. It was, patriarchal lineage. You switch it to a
Right.
matriarchal lineage, the impetus to rape all your women goes out the fucking door.
Right. Yeah.
It was brilliant. And it's a strategy. It literally changed at one point and became a decision to stop the rapes from the Muslim
Wow.
expansion.
I never thought
But
of that. That's
It
good.
like it
Mhm.
goes to like whatever 3/5 of a person in the Constitution,
Right.
because in the South they wanted slaves to count as a person, and they would get a vote based on that person, but that person didn't get to vote. And in the North they're like, we want them to count as a person and to have a vote. And so the split size wise, North to South, was 3/5 of the voting public was in the North, and the other part was down there. And so you can't count your slaves as part of your population for congressional representation because you're not allowing
I
them to
know.
have a vote. So they count as 3/5 of a person. That's why. It wasn't that that the people who were writing the Constitution viewed them as less than human. It was because the South wanted to have them as a constitutional mandate for a person, but not allow them to vote or participate in
Yeah.
democracy. And like
Mhm.
that was at that time that was the only way they could mitigate it. So we need to
Yeah.
that'll be our next conversation. Tara Devlin,
Yeah.
who also rocks.
Because I believe that because one of my philosophies or whatever the hypothesis is that we have been entirely too lenient on conservatives throughout our history, and that includes the 3/5 compromise, all these compromises, letting them
Well, those
off the hook for
compromises, there was no
reasons.
option though. The leniency, and I'll push back on this in one area. The leniency presumes there's another option. It presumes you
Wow.
could have done something different at the time.
Right, at the time, exactly.
And it was-
At the
it
time.
was-
But what about I believe that Lee, after the Civil War, one of the worst things that happened is that Grant let Lee off the hook and said, goodbye, have a nice, just don't sin anymore. And he was actually surprised about how lenient Grant was. And I think, we've had this tradition where the
Right.
conservatives have took up arms against the Constitution of the United States, and we simply let them off the hook. And now we have January 6th on top of it. Another
Yeah,
example.
I think that's wholly different. I don't think that you can even
Mm.
tie that to when the country was barely formed to now, when we've got a
Right.
structure that we can fight back against. That'll be a great conversation. I would love to have
Yes.
that. The next time we're on, that's what we're talking
Let's
about.
do it.
We're talking
All right.
the historical arc of leniency.
I love to.
And
Let's do it.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
do it. Because anyway, we've had such a short history. It's disgraceful that Trump's going to preside over our 250th year, but
Right.
we've had so many opportunities.
If he makes
and
it, right?
well, that's true.
And I don't mean because somebody will do him in. I'm not
yeah,
asking for
legally
that. I'm
and
not advocating.
peacefully, right?
I mean, he's got a lot of stairs between him and that day,
Uh-huh.
and they're
All
not
right.
getting any better. All right, you're awesome. Thank you so much, Tara Devlin,
Thank
for
you.
being on with
Thank
me
you.
today. The Tara Show Tuesdays
Let's
and Thursdays,
talk
and of course, Tara Busters is her Substack and also her Friday show.
Yes,
Thanks so
Friday
much.
show.
All right,
All
we'll talk
right.
again soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Excellent. Bye. There she goes.